Welcome to the Hustle or Bust podcast powered by Paverart. Our mission is simple: to dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, small business, and all the success, struggle, and challenges that need to be confronted in the pursuit of growth. We celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit, but perhaps most important, we want you to learn at least one idea that you can put into action immediately to make your investment in time worthwhile.
The halfway mark of every business represents a time to do a health checkup. We're going to bring you into our review at Paverart, as Mike called it, a rectal exam on the health of our business. Welcome to episode 44 of the Hustle or Bust podcast. We hope this mid-year checkup provides some value for you, and we welcome you to drop us a line with some feedback. Let's call this a small business mid-year health checkup.
Correct.
So if you're doing a health checkup on a business, what are some of the things that you would rattle off that you want to take a hard look at?
Well, I'd want to take a look at what we outlined at the end of last year, moving forward into this year, what we wanted to do this year to improve things.
So performance against goals, right?
Performance against goals, exactly right. And to me, a review of that is really critical. I mean, that's how you measure whether we're moving forward, what kind of performance we've done this year in regards to manufacturing, CapEx, employee development, that sort of thing. And I think that this is a pretty good jumping off point. This was the year that we installed, the first half of this year is when we installed the new water jet. It's one thing to put in a new piece of equipment, but as anybody knows, when you put in a new piece of equipment, it changes the performance dynamic. Now all of a sudden you've got more capability, you've increased capacity. In addition to that, you've increased space. We picked up an additional 6,000 square feet. We moved engraving into that space. We moved engraving out of the Paverart space. So we should be getting more efficient in both departments. Both departments are not stepping over each other to get things done. My assessment, if you look at the addition of the new piece of cutting equipment, that was a huge move, and it started to pay dividends already. But part of the dividends that it needed to pay was an improved efficiency in flow in the manufacturing department on the Paverart side. We had a meeting early on this year. We basically set goals. We set monthly goals. We set goals for how the three pieces of cutting equipment were going to run, and we gave those goals. We had that meeting. We set up those goals with the guys. We had subsequent meetings to follow up and see how they were being expedited. And I'd venture to say that we've taken big positive steps to expedite and improve performance and efficiency as a result of those meetings. We're seeing full, the spacing that we use for assembly. 2/3 of the time, that space is pretty close to being full. More pieces have been seen and counted on the floor in the last 4 to 5 months than ever before in the history of Paverart, and that can only be chalked up to, obviously, having that new piece of equipment, adding capacity, and the performance of the guys doing that. So I think that's a positive. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we talked about a podcast. We had the biggest CapEx project, capital expenditure in the history of the company. Let's just say we took, I'm doing the math in my head, 3 years worth of profits, put them in a bucket, and we dumped it right back into the business.
Exactly.
To do this project, which was a new piece of cutting equipment. We now have 3 and a brand new facility for engraving. To your point, with the increased square footage and a bigger, more talented team.
That investment was actually bigger than the investment when we started the business.
Right, exactly.
And it might be It might be times 2, maybe even times 3. I'd have to go back and take a look at the
So
original
we put
dollars.
$500,000 of capex in since when I bought the business.
Yeah.
Which is more than, definitely more than the initial capital to start the business.
Yeah.
I think a year ago, didn't we do a postmortem on last summer? When we basically said this summer just kicked our ass. And why don't we give a little recap of the horror stories of last summer? We can start with the fire starter,
The
kid,
Yeah.
who shall remain nameless.
If you're going to compare this summer to last summer,
That's the
and
comparison.
you want to start with employee evaluations, no comparison, not even close. This summer far outshines from an employee standpoint, an employee evaluation standpoint, what we had last summer. I mean, last summer, it's become an anecdote here to talk about the
Setting the plant on fire.
the employee that found some way to take a saw and start a fire with that. I didn't think that was possible. And no, he didn't rub 2 saws together. he was basically cutting hardboard.
But that wasn't the bad part. The bad part was he had his boots that were untied, and he shuffles his feet, and he lollygags, Bulldorm, lollygags over to Brian and say, there seems to be a fire over there. In the case of fire, that seems to be the most urgent thing that you could possibly have in a plant. You really want to run and put that sucker out. And he lollygagged over, and then Brian had to grab the fire extinguisher and put the thing out. This year, we don't have that type of scenario. Thank God.
No, we don't. And we've got twice as many employees. And to a man, there's significant improvement in performance. And
I think it starts there. So forget
Yeah.
about equipment, forget about sales.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go do a small business health checkup for business owners out there or leaders of businesses, start with team. So who's on your team? Is it the same team? Is it different players? So wind the clock back 1 year and just do a team performance assessment. What was the culture like? What were the players? Compare it to this year. And then person by person, are you better? Look, you and I, we were here last year. Are we operating better this year versus last year? Are you a little bit smoother? But you want to go through that health checkup.
let's
Team-
talk about
team
that.
review.
Let's talk about us, because we talk about other people pretty freely. We should be talking about ourselves freely too. If I were to grade my performance from last summer to this summer, I would not be saying that there was significant improvement. And I think one of the reasons for that is, for instance, the manufacturing department, in addition to getting the new piece of equipment, we've picked up 2 more guys there, okay? In sales and marketing, we haven't picked up 1 more guy.
Right,
It's
true.
still us. But if you look at sales and what sales project out to be for this year, I mean, we're going to be up probably another 20%, 20, 25%. Hopefully, if everything continues to go according to plan. I mean, this is, we're getting to the end of July. We're 7 months into this for this year. But sometimes it feels like you're treading water in the sales department because there's so many things to be done, and you have to do the handoff of responsibilities from some of the things that I was doing before, handing them off to other people and adding to their checklist of things that they have to get done every day. So we're continuing to do that. That will allow me to get better at my sales job, or not get better at it, but perform more hours at the sales job. And I think this week has probably been the first week in a while where I've had a chance to really experience that, where I've had a chance to, where you're basically project managing, where you're initiating calls, you're answering and responding to clients. So if I were to grade myself over last year, if last summer I graded myself as a B or a B plus, I'd probably give myself a B and a B plus again. I haven't cracked the A plus code just yet.
Yep.
But a lot of that's got to do with time. So, not making any excuses. It's just the truth. I think the number of projects that are medium to large projects that we would consider medium to large, medium being 20,000 or more, large being 30, 35,000 or more. Been a very significant uptick in those projects over the last year, and they require more time and more effort to bring to fruition, not just to close them, but to get them expedited to a point where you get your 50% deposit, where you can actually get the material in here, all that stuff. It requires a lot more time than the shotgun client that calls up and says, you have any compass roses? You got any 4-foot compass roses in stock? Yeah, you can turn that sale around in about 15, 20 minutes. But again, those sales are just as important. They're very, very important to the company too. So anyway, that's how I would grade myself from last summer to this summer. Maybe a little bit of an improvement, but not as much as I would have liked. But everything's in place to see what I hope would be a significant improvement from here to the end of the year. Mm-hmm. How about you?
The first letter grade that came to my mind was like a B- for me. Mm-hmm. Google is kicking our ass. Google came out with, I don't know if any small business owner knows it, but they came out with a new analytics, and our visibility, our understanding of our Google advertising has dramatically fallen off the cliff, and we don't have a plan to get it better. Google's support has not been as well as it was. We used to have an account manager. We're spending a hefty chunk of our marketing dollars on Google, and we don't have a handle of it. And we don't have a clear path. Kim is trying to get us some support. I give myself a C- there. And just in terms of raw, how are we doing right now with understanding our marketing and return on spend? C- might be generous. It might be a D+. So we've stepped back there.
Okay, but that begs the question. We've been doing Google now for how long?
4 years.
Significantly doing Google.
3 years.
3 years.
Google changed, and
that's the part. That was the question.
So Google was it's not like we stopped paying attention. Google changed, and everyone's struggling with the new Google Analytics and what it means to their advertising and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so we just stepped back. I think there's a lot of small businesses out there right now that are struggling with this conversion to Google Analytics. Long story short, that's like a D+. We are not where we need to be, so that's probably influencing my overall grade. And I'm the one that's kind of doing it with Kim, the advertising. So that's a pressure point. Our content marketing, we're putting out one blog post a month, maybe, with an email that goes out with it. And that's kind of like free marketing. You're going to spend time on it.
Sure.
But just one a month ain't going to cut it. So I give myself a C there. Quotes, I think we're managing quotes okay. We're not doing a great job with follow-up. We haven't really moved the needle on that. And our quotes,
and that was one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the year that we were going to be doing better at.
Yeah, and it looks like if 2 months equal a trend, our volume of interest or quotes coming in are down, could be down 20%. Mm-hmm. So who knows if that's a trend or not. But when you're down, when you've got less top of the funnel activity, less visits to the website, less interest in quotes, and it's down 20%, you better be closing more or there's no way we're going to hit our goal.
Right.
So you don't panic over 2 months. But 2 months is not 2 weeks. So anyway, so I give myself probably a C overall on what I would call sales and marketing. I think we made some improvements on team management and team leadership. Mm-hmm. We've actually had 2 team performance meetings, which is kind of embarrassing to say that we've had two consecutive.
But we just got this. We just got the new space. We've got an opportunity.
Right.
We have a room now that we can do that in.
Fit people into a team meeting room.
That's exactly right.
So we've had 2 meetings and we've had 2 good numbers with production. So in terms of leadership, we're mentoring one guy. We got one guy on what we would call our brick-by-brick program, Jonathan.
Sure.
Compared to the last year's intention, that guy, it's like night and day. So I think we're hitting it there. Team performance meetings, we've got 2 of them. We're heading in the right direction there. I would say A-, B+ on that area, which might be the most important area because without a team that's functioning well, you don't have anything. So bad marks on sales and marketing, good marks, and a path to go even further on team management. CapEx, capital equipment, we still don't have a tech. We still don't have a preventative maintenance program. The shop is a mess. We still have a mess in terms of there's not a lot of proactivity on preventative maintenance, things like that. So in terms of my influence on that, it's a D. So overall, I'm probably pushing a B-ish area. Results, if I want to go by financials, were probably B+. So, but the things that you can control as a business owner, you got to make sure you control and you give yourself high marks. I'm responsible for Google, so I either figure out how to get that thing, write it, and the understanding around that, or move dollars. I'm responsible for team leadership, right? And then getting all that right. And then the other things, like making sure that the people, I think you moving your activities that were operations in nature over to the operations side is important. So you can spend more time on sales. That's critical. And we're making progress there. Is it not? Is it fast enough to our standard? Probably not.
No, it's not.
But we're making progress. There's a little bit more going each week, and anything can always go quicker. So, but you're making progress. You can't beat up progress, right?
Yeah, and I think the same. The marks that you're giving yourself are of equal value to me too, because we're basically doing the same things every day. There are certain things that you're doing that you're an Excel master, so the spreadsheets and all the analytical tools that we need to know where we are and understand where we are with this business are far superior than what we've ever had in this business, and that's good to have. Give yourself an A+ for that. Okay.
Well, thank you.
But what about
anecdotal things? Like, is there more? What does the Paverart brand name mean to our community? Call it the hardscaping world, vendors, manufacturers. The interest in Paverart. Are more people aware of Paverart and want to do business with us this year versus last year, do you think? Do you think there's evidence of that?
Absolutely, there's evidence. Now, the problem is we can't explain why. Okay? We think it's got something to do with the Google advertising and our social media advertising. And it's also difficult to put your finger on, and we did a podcast on this, it's also difficult to put your finger on how much the economy is actually influencing that. I'm not sure if the government even understands what the hell is going on with the economy right now. I mean, they're going to raise the interest rates again.
Well, one of the smartest guys in the world, Elon Musk, said, I have no freaking idea what the global economy is doing, and I can't predict it. And so if he can't predict it, I'm certainly not going to try to.
There's a good chance that we're not. But it's pretty simple for us to understand. We've got Google in place. We've got the expenditures on CapEx are paying dividends. The team has begun coming together and is starting into phase 2 of team building. All of these things make you more efficient, make you more profitable, also give you the opportunity to get into, the next realm of sales, okay, and be able to handle that. Make sure that you've got that under thumb. We're getting there, and it's pretty exciting stuff. Yeah, a lot of the things that we wanted to do at the beginning of the year, I don't think we realized how much all this other stuff was going to influence the time management, constraints that we're under. I mean, it's not like we're not putting in the hours, but I believe we're definitely going in the right direction. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah.
All the basic tenets of running a good business are there. Right. They're in place. And it's just a question of you got to keep hammering the basics. Just keep hammering the basics. Keep doing the basics, and make sure that your people are doing the same thing, and motivate them to do such. By the way, I think you need to give yourself an A or an A+ on individual employee motivation. Okay, compensation is there. The inner workings and the interactions with the employees. I'm not sure I've worked anywhere where that's been as high level as this is. I mean, everybody knows you very, very well. I mean, you're part of the everyday, participation of this business, and you don't get that in every business. Well, that's pretty important.
Well, again,
they know, and you're not ashamed to tell them where you stand and why, and you question things.
Well, look, the opportunity for a small business, which is what we are, versus the biggest business out there. Let's just say it's Amazon.
Sure.
If a small business can grow at an accelerated rate and they're running a good, profitable, healthy business, there's no reason why the employees in a small business should not do significantly better over time than somebody working at Amazon.
Agreed.
That's just the plain math.
Right.
Amazon, they could be growing $1 billion a year in operating profit. That doesn't mean the employee is going to get 30% more per year.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
They've got their way. Small businesses, they could do that. I do think people believe as we do better, they're going to share in that. If we look at compensation from 5 years ago to today, everyone's doing better. So I think there's a case to be made. So the small business owner needs to believe that. That's why growth is important. Mm-hmm. With growth, it just doesn't mean the owner gets richer. It means the employees get better, and then there's more investment. all of that. Small businesses owner, if they're going to do a mid-year checkup, which they need to do, they got to look at working capital. Working capital is your current assets, which is your cash, your accounts receivable, your inventory. What's the sum of that number compared to your current assets this time last year, minus your current liabilities, which are your bills that come due within a year. Credit card bills, your short-term payments on debt, whatever that is. So your current assets minus your current liabilities equals working capital. How does that number compare to this time last year? Should be going up if you're running a profitable business. Obviously, there's some things, if you're investing in inventory, that'll drive up your inventory, it'll lower your cash, but that's a metric of your financial health, is working capital. 90% of small business owners don't even know what that is, what that number is. I've said before, I'm getting pretty critical just on the people that we do. There's a large percentage of the population that has no duty being a small business owner. They're going to miss payroll. They don't have a plan to get better. They don't know where their working capital is. They think they're doing great. They might not be doing great.
And we're not going to get paid on time.
Yeah, and they're going to run into a glacier, and it's just a question of when, not if. So, and we see that from not getting paid on time. We're getting stretched. I try my hardest never to stretch a vendor and to pay the bill right away. What we struggle with is, did we miss the bill type of thing, administrative things.
Sure.
But people will understand that. So, but working capital, know what your working capital is. That's a key healthy checkpoint. If your accounts receivable, that's something to measure this year versus last year. If you're booking more sales, your AR should be up, and that's a tell for future. You need leading indicators in a business. You can't look at your sales that happened in the last 7 months and say that that's going to be indicative of the future. You got to have some kind of leading indicator. In our world, it's quotes, and the AR number is what that manifests it. If we book sales, our AR goes up. If we don't book sales, AR goes down, assuming that we're producing at a steady rate.
And we've already established a direct tie between the growth in quotes and the growth in sales.
Right.
Okay. One of the things we said this year was that we wanted to also improve our closing rate. I don't think we've measured that as yet.
Right.
Maybe that'll be the next podcast.
Yep.
But my guess is our closing rate's better. It's definitely higher. And because there's tools that we're using now that we weren't using before. Now, the one tool that we're not utilizing completely is the follow-up function with HubSpot.
Now, the health checkup, we did a long podcast. It's not yet published, but Scribe Media, which is a company that abruptly closed their doors in late May, or they ceased operation. They laid off 90% of their people.
Right.
A lot of accolades. It's the best culture, best company to work for in Austin, Texas, led by what was voted the best CEO in Austin, Texas. And abruptly, they closed their doors, and you got 80 people that are shocked and laid off. So the analogy I keep going back to, if it can happen where 80 people are shocked and their healthcare benefits are shut off within 12 hours, business owners have an obligation to figure out how to run a healthy business and communicate and build a culture that's real and not bullshit with fanfare and media. So that's one of the obligations a business owner has, is to look out after their employees and communicate to them. And some way to have a mid-year checkup on that is kind of important, I think.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because the 2 employee meetings that we've had, month-end meetings, to check performance from the previous month, that
we had good goals. We beat our goals.
It's been my experience, and I've worked for several small businesses, and this is my 3rd startup. Okay, never did we have that before. Okay, and it's really, really critical. And the one thing that these team meetings have in them, which is, I don't know, it's not radically different than what some companies are doing, but we're very honest. You come across with numbers, everybody knows how we're doing, exactly, down to the dollar. We're very specific about that. And we also know why, they also know why the targeted dollar amounts for production per month are those specific numbers. Why is this number this? Where did you come up with it? Did you just pull this out of the air? No, of course not. You don't pull that kind of stuff out of your ass. There's a reason that you get to that number. Some of that, part of that number, a small part of that number is motivational in quality, but a big chunk of that number is we got to do that number to stay in business and make enough money to stay in business. Right. So, but we're very honest about that, and we're very straightforward about that, and that's the difference, I think, between this company and previous companies that I've been a part of. So.
Well, I think every team meeting, when you hit your goals, you don't want to self-congratulate for a 1-hour meeting.
Right.
Here's how we did. We hit our goals. Then move the fuck on and go on to something that you got to focus on for the future.
Yeah.
And it's got to be some kind of training-oriented thing.
Never
First
goes
team
away.
meeting was it was moats. This concept of what is Paverart building now that we got 3 machines and we're investing in brand and we got 2 separate. We're building a freaking juggernaut that if somebody wants to come after our business, they're going to have a hell of a time. Imagine
Right.
coming after us 7 years ago versus today. 2 different worlds. Our brand is getting stronger, and we've got capabilities I don't think anyone can match right now.
And that's the moat concept.
That's the MO concept. The second meeting was the playbook concept. We bring in a new employee, and we're using Dominic as an example. Tell us the story of Dominic. He's packaging the product. I'm in the plant one day. Here's a quick little story about how far we've got to go. We're talking about training, and you can tell a story about John in the military. And who's the admiral again?
McCraven, that's right.
Admiral McCraven. I'm looking at Dominic's work in the plant, and I'm looking at a pallet, and he's got 6, 7 layers high, and the pallet looked a little cockeyed. It looked like it wasn't at a 45-degree angle, but it wasn't a straight level pallet. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, "What the? Why are those things tilted?" And I'm thinking that he's on a forklift, or he's got a paver underneath one side of the pallet, or not.
Right.
And then we go over and we're looking at it, and what was the issue?
I spotted it right away. The separator material, the styrofoam separator material, has to be the same thickness
That's the paver.
as the paver. And
it
these
was
were 2
lower.
3/8 inch pavers, but the styrofoam on 3 of those levels were only 2 inch.
And so he pulled the wrong material for the separator material. And we asked him, all right, why are you using the 2 inch versus the, he didn't know there was different thicknesses of material.
Right.
Well, okay, so we go, where's the material? It's over there. And over there is in the corner. And we got 3 big stacks of styrofoam. Not one of them's labeled
No?
in a visible way. That now Amazon would kick our ass in that. There would be a slot for the 2 inch versus the 2
And
and
they would
3/8.
be all segregated from each other.
So number one, he wasn't told. Number two, it was organized in a way that was subject to error. It was kind of labeled if you looked at it real hard, but it wasn't. And there was no standard that said they've got to be labeled.
Management from that standpoint didn't understand that this is a young man that just started learning how to do this. How is he supposed to know, first of all, that there's 4 different thicknesses of styrofoam in this inventory over here, and that this was supposed to be all 2 and 3/8.
So here we go, and we're killing it financially. So we might be killing it financially. And I drive home 82 miles north on the turnpike that night, and I'm thinking, son of a bitch, we're 20 years old, and we can't define what a standard. It's not written on paper. This concept of playbooks. Nowhere do we have a written on paper that the things are supposed to be level. And how you get it level is the same thickness of the paver, the same as this. And we don't tell anybody. We just assume that it's done because this is the way we've always done it, so we're not communicating. So how do you grow a company when you can't bring new talent in and explain to them the 5 must-dos in this area of the job? Or it's not on paper. You can't, or you're going to struggle to. Or you're going to have cockeyed pallets. So I'm thinking, we've got so much more to go. So the concept of playbooks is how do you get jobs on paper with standards, with pictures, with videos, whatever the medium is, to get better at this? So we've got so long to go, 20 years, and we don't have this.
We've relied on other parts of the business to pump up the sales number. Now, the sales number's real, okay? Our sales here, the last 3 years, our sales here significantly eclipse any previous year by quite a bit, okay? Period. End of story. There's a reason for that. And this is one of those things that drags that down. But something else has been so overwhelmingly good that the sales numbers have gone up overwhelmingly well, if that's a term, to kind of offset that plus some. That's not how you run a successful business long term. You can't keep doing that.
It's a smokescreen.
It's a smokescreen.
Right.
The
You gotta
bottom
get the
line
leverage
is
right.
you improve that, this will also improve over here.
So on a
even
second
more.
meeting, we introduced the concept or the graduation speech of Admiral McCraven. What were a couple of things that kind of stood out in the meeting?
The first and foremost thing is the list of 10 things that you need to do every day. And the first one was make your bed. Now, this is not the place to go into an in-depth analysis of that because he does that. But the idea is that's the first thing you do when you get you get up in the morning. You make your bed. The sense of accomplishment that you have allows you to move on to the next task, and then you're going to complete that task.
Right.
Okay. And you do this all day long. If you do an assessment of your day at the end of that day and what you did and your performance that day, you're going to be very, very pleased. And you do this every day. It's, by the end of the week, by the end of the month, by the end of the year, you have moved the needle forward in your life significantly. And it's, he was tying this all into becoming a SEAL, which is by far one of the most, a Navy SEAL.
The baddest fighting force on the planet.
And the most difficult and elite group to get into of any group that you might talk about, period. End of story. And you start with making your bed. And they teach you, when you go into the Navy, they teach you how to make your bed. And it's got to be made the same way, perfectly, every day. There's a comfort in that, and there's a security in that for people who there's a disturbance in their life where they can't seem to calm down. They can't seem to get order in their lives. Make your bed.
Right.
Step one. The next 9 things
equally as impactful. The one, and we'll talk about one, and we can move on and how it related to our team meeting. But he remember the Munchkin crew?
Oh yeah.
So was it 3 guys per?
No, I think there was 5 or 6 per
boat, right?
Yeah, per boat.
And the Munchkin crew
per group, because that group stayed together during several activities.
Right.
But go ahead.
So you had big, strong guys, and then the Munchkin crew were all the short guys. One was a Mexican, one was from Iowa, and they were clearly at a physical disadvantage to all the other guys.
Right.
And they kicked everyone's ass. So his thought was, all right, how does the Munchkin crew work together and beat all the big, strong guys? And he starts tying it into diversity, and they're from all over parts of the world, the Iowa, the Mexican, and they're going on and on. But the Munchkin crew, the one that looked like they wouldn't be able to achieve or even keep up, kicked everyone's ass somehow, all right? Yeah. Talk about humbling. So he's talking about, and that's when I think about small business and small blue-collar business, it doesn't care about your degree. It doesn't care if you graduated from a elite school, private school, or if you got a rich family or you got poor family. And it doesn't care about generational, it doesn't care about pedigree. It's about how good you are and how can you work together as a team. That concept for a small business is so freaking powerful, it's not even describable.
Well, if you recall, we tied that into the Walgreens
That's right.
special needs group and how they were outpacing and outperforming everyone else in the company by a significant margin.
Yeah, so Walgreens, the takeaway or the golden nugget.
Right.
Everybody, if you want to get motivated, I watch this once a month. Google Admiral McRaven, I think it was University of Texas commencement speech. Mm-hmm. One of the best out there. It's probably the best I've seen.
It's
what you're talking about.
And it's about 21 minutes long.
Here's kind of like a humbling, uplifting story, and I've got a daughter with special needs, with Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. But Walgreens, we're going back now 15, 20 years, their COO had a son with autism, 18 years old. And the line is, if you're a parent of a kid with special needs, your goal is to have them live a long, prosperous life, but have you as a parent outlive your child by one day, because you're always worried about them being independent. So he had this same thought that every other parent does. And how does his son have an employment opportunity? Well,
Sure.
There was none out there. The unemployment rate is like 80% for people with some kind of disability. It's way too high. So what he did is, within Walgreens, he took a DC and he did a test, and he said, all right, what if we crafted it where at least 1/3 of the population of the distribution center was somebody with a disability? It could be autism, Down syndrome, deafness, it could be a physical handicap. And they built supports around him, number one being get them transportation to get to work. That's the number one thing we got to solve for. Mm-hmm. And then we got to figure out within a job. Long story short, after 18 months, that distribution center outranked every other one in the entire system. Turnover went down, throughput went up, it just performed better. And they're like, this has got to be a fluke. Let's try it at another one. Mm-hmm. And then within 18 months, same thing happened. Now imagine being the plant manager and sitting in a room with other distribution center managers, and this distribution center has 50% the quote disabled population, and they're outranking you. That's pretty humbling, isn't it?
It's yes.
Could you imagine the competitive alpha male type A's?
Humbling embarrassing is a better term.
I mean, that number one in terms, again, back to human potential. If this distribution center with double-digit employee population with disabled is outranking the ones without, there's something to be learned for that. I don't think pedigree is influencing that. Do you? I mean,
No,
it's
not at all.
Anyway, so back to the meeting, and Admiral McRaven, what does this mean for team leadership, small business? John was Army Reserves, one of our guys. And I'm like, John, give us a breakdown. How does the Army train people? What does basic training look like? John talked for 15 minutes, and he just gave us a clinic on what it all looks like. He talked about hand grenade training, and if you don't get it right, you got to do it over again. Now, we're talking about hand grenade. You think the Army leaves it to chance on how do you pull out the pin and throw the grenade?
Absolutely not.
You think it's written down somewhere?
Absolutely.
So if it works with the freaking Army, I think it can work with a small business. It's almost mad. So I'm writing all this stuff down about how do you train on a hand grenade, and I'm like, why? We don't need to be that freaking smart. Let's just copy the Army on how they do basic training, or the Navy SEALs. I mean, there's some wisdom there.
Well, then we said this at the beginning of the year, and it's a little lamentable now that I'm bringing this up, but in relation to sales follow-ups, what we said was, okay, we have to find the time to do this. This isn't one of those situations where, okay, we're gonna eliminate this part of the job to build time into our daily activities for maybe an hour's worth of follow-ups or 2 hours worth of follow-ups. I'm embarrassed to say we have not done that. I have not. I won't say we, but I have not been able to do that.
What becomes a focus area for this now until the end of the year?
Well, this is one of those situations too. We're going to say it again, and we're going to keep saying it until we get it done. We have to do the follow-ups. We have to do what you're talking about. Okay, we have to be able to do that. We've got to commit to paper so that we've got something to refer to when we have an issue or a problem, or if we're going to teach someone a part of the job that they heretofore have never learned and need to learn. And what's interesting about this is it's just the physical act of putting it on paper. All the knowledge is there. Okay, it's in somebody's head. It's in my head. It's in Brian's head. It's in your head. We all have it there. It's just a question of taking the time. The term finding the time is very misleading. You're never going to find the time.
Right.
What you have to do is you have to make the time. Okay. Don't find it. Make it.
Right.
All right. Because if you're going to finding it means you have to be motivated enough to take the time to do that. No, you have to make the time. So let's resolve here and now. Because quite frankly, I don't want to be talking about this at the end of the year and bringing this up again, because it's going to be embarrassing. And I don't know about you, but embarrassment is a pretty powerful motivator.
Sure. Yeah, whatever it takes.
So there's two things that we need to do. We need to start committing to paper the teaching aspects of the different jobs, the breakdowns of the different jobs, whether it be, most of them are probably in the factory at this point. And the other thing is the follow-ups. It's the follow-ups. It's easy. I'll tell you what my downfall is, and there's no excuse for it. I'm one of those people. I'm a checklist guy. I come in the morning, and if my checklist has got 23 things on it, I don't feel good unless that checklist is gone and finished, and all the check marks are by it at the end of the day. It's hard as hell to get all 23 things checked off at the end of the day. Why? Because the phones ring. Again, sometimes you just have to say, Mark, I need you to cover for me. I'm going to take an hour, and I'm going to do follow-ups on these jobs.
Right.
Okay? Can you do that for me? And, of course, your answer is always going to be yes. Mm-hmm. And you need to do the same for me.
Sure.
So we just need to do it. And let's just resolve it. Let's resolve to ourselves that we're going to do that between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, I think here's a watch out too. I see, again, shout out to our friends, the Hardscape Contractors of America. Mm-hmm. I saw a simple question last night, or it was kind of a statement as well as soliciting feedback, which is great. Are your phones slowing down? The guy asked a simple question. Mine are here. I think it was Chicago. So, and then, like always happens on that group with 25,000 people, it didn't take long for 100 comments to come out.
Sure.
And the comments, there was a range of them. but it didn't take more than 5 comments to say, thank Uncle Joe, i.e. biting. And then there was 30 comments off of that one bashing the political environment that we're in today. And I'm like, 2 years ago, they were killing it. Was anyone giving credit to whatever 2 years ago was or whatever it was? I mean, it's the trap for a small business owner to blame the economy or the downturn in business on whatever political leader is in office right now. It's such a fool's errand.
It's the difference.
It's such a waste of fucking time.
It's the difference between an excuse and a reason.
Right.
Okay. And here's the difference between an excuse and a reason. An excuse implies no movement. You're not going to do something about it. It's an excuse for you not to do something about it. A reason is just an explanation to tell you what might be causing this, and then what you're supposed to do is figure out what the next steps are going to be to, as you say, act on it and move to the next tableau so that you can again move the needle forward for your business.
Right.
It's the difference between an excuse and a reason.
Look, it's let's say the 20% decline in top line interest quotes are really going to be a trend. Well, if we're following up on 1 out of every 5 leads, right? We can follow up on 5 out of 5. If we're doing 1 blog post a month, well, maybe we kick it up to 5 blog posts a month. Those are all. If we're spending X number of dollars on Google, maybe we set up 3 tests, 1 on Pinterest, 1 on. If there's not 7 things different that we're going to start to pull a lever on, then shame on me. Then we're just waiting for the thing to go down.
Yeah, and that's not tenable.
If we're still sitting here and we got cockeyed palates because we haven't written down the right way to do it, shame on us. If we haven't figured out how to take that hand grenade training lesson and translate it into actionable playbooks for employee training, shame on us. So all of this stuff is, and then if you're not inspiring a culture that kind of talks about the Munchkin Group and things like that or whatever you want your small business to be, you're not heading in the right direction. So the health checkup, there's certain things you want to look at. You want to look at the numbers. You want to look at your balance sheet, your working capital, and then you want to look at your team and then your CapEx, all those things. But you really got to start saying, what are the leading indicators you're going to act on to do things differently to start moving a needle? And that moving a needle, by the way, can go from declining 20% to maybe declining 4%. That's progress, right? You're lessening the blow or to accelerate the growth, whatever that is. You're trying to make a difference.
Okay. We've beaten ourselves up pretty good here the last 20 minutes or so. There's one area that I look at this midway point of the year, the midway point of the year. And I think it's pretty substantial. Before, we didn't really need management in either one of the 2 key departments here. There's 3 key departments, but the 2 of them are manufacturing related. I know. We've seen some significant movement forward, and this is a positive, significant movement forward in the management of those 2 departments outside of my influence and your influence. Can it get better? Absolutely, it can get better. And we have to continue to keep moving in that direction. But we went from not having any to having a pretty substantial amount now. And we've seen movement in 2 particular individuals that I think is very positive. And is it enough? No. We got to keep moving. Those individuals have to keep improving and keep even getting better at what they're doing. But we have seen a significant improvement in that area. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think, absolutely. It keeps coming back to the same thing. Who are your key people on the team? How does a team function together? What can you do to accelerate it? Are they ready for that? Are they ready or not ready for it, right? What's the willingness of people to change, to improve, to lead? It's going to vary. Some of the guys you're talking about have only been here 3 years, right?
Right.
So, and we would say probably at month 18, they're nowhere near being that. And in fact, I think you would agree, one of those guys might be ready for management type things, right?
Agreed.
That's progress. That's what you're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Look, at business, the simple fundamental principle, a business won't grow unless the individuals within the business are going to grow. If they're not personally getting better and growing their skill set, the business is not going to grow. You might have some short-term sugar highs, but you're not going to be sustainably growing as a business unless the individuals are going to grow.
Right.
For them to grow, they got to look in the mirror. They got to believe that there's something in it for them. They got to work as a unit. You got to have that culture. It's got to be punitive almost if they don't get better, right? So that's got to be part of the culture. It's got to be part of the unwritten rules of the business. So yeah, you're exactly right in the assessment. The key is to get everybody on board with getting better and getting that performance-driven culture. It takes time to get there.
I'm pleased to see that. I mean, I've been here, as you're always so kind to mention, I've been here from the beginning, and it's been an individually driven management from a department standpoint, because the people who were basically doing the jobs were all self-motivated. I mean, you're part of the business. You either own a part of the business, or you realize that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, the business is going to go out of business. Everybody plays a significant part in the running of the day-to-day business. But now we're getting to the point where we're getting bigger. And as you get bigger, it becomes departments. And as you get departments, you have to have managers. And we're seeing positive development in that area. And I think that's a good thing, and that's a pretty good assessment. That's one of the good things that you can chalk. You can put that up on the pro side of of an assessment.
Yep.
So.
I think it's public news now, but we've got one employee, let's keep the name out, but they're having another baby coming. So Nick had a baby. We've got another one on the way, and that's kind of cool as you have a small little business.
Oh, yeah.
When people get added to the thing. Here's another small one. Dominic and I were talking about this on a personal front. Fun little thing in the world of outdoor living. We wanted to get a pizza oven. So we bought a pizza oven. Shout out to the good fine folks at Uni Pizza Oven. And like anything in life, you could buy a $100 pizza oven. You could buy a $10,000 pizza oven.
Yes, and Uni, if you'd like to sponsor this show.
Another unpaid sponsor.
Another unpaid sponsor. And it's Uni, OONI.
And what was the one we bought? Is it the Carew? The 16-inch? We bought the Carew. It's $799. This could be yours, too. Pizza oven.
Sure.
So Friday nights is pizza night in our household. And Dominic's learning how to make pizza. It becomes this great little thing. And we were thinking about, all right, look, July of 2023, a little bit more fun than July of 2022. We got the pizza oven. We got our Friday tradition. And he's got 2 more years in high school. So that's pretty cool. So the family unit should kind of look at that, too. A small business owner, part of it is not just grinding away at your small business, but are you having a little bit more fun as a family, doing the things you want to do?
Yeah, it's the
pizza oven was a small little sign.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I saw Dom's Pizza. I saw a photo of Dom's Pizza online the other day. It looked pretty darn good.
Yep.
I mean, I was very impressed with that. It looks like one of those pizzas that you get from the pizza place that everybody tells you got to go. You got to get a pizza from this place. That's what that pizza looked like. So congratulations, Dom. Dom's got his head in his phone. That's our producer, ladies and gentlemen.
128.
Dominic Olivito. Shout out. Yeah, exactly.
So Dominic did this little graphic, this hustle or bust, bouncing up and down. Your pal is a ghost, and you're on top of it.
And I have no beard. Where's my beard? Dom, when are you going to put a beard on me?
I didn't draw it.
That's it.
I don't know where my Italian skin went. My Italian olive oil Italian skin went. Your guinea charm. Remember that song?
I think that's
Frank,
right.
The Godfather?
Yeah, exactly.
Johnny Fontaine?
Johnny Fontaine.
Johnny Fontaine is not going to star in that movie.
And another thing. Let
me be even more frank. You got to bring that clip in. Johnny Fontaine. With that guinea charm and that olive oil skin. All right, I think on that note, we should wrap it up on the mid-year health checkup.
We get into some of those lines. That's not going to go well.
Mr. Corleone does not like bad news.
No, he likes to get his bad news immediately. Immediately. Wants to hear it right off.
Thank you for the dinner.
But
Tom Hagen.
Well, I'd say we, the temperature taking, mid-year, we fell somewhere between the I like rectal. I'm going to use that. The rectal thermometer temperature reading, and mom putting her wrist on your forehead.
Yep.
We fell somewhere in between there.
There's anxieties. There's always anxieties when you're trying to say, all right, how do you do a comprehensive, fact-based health checkup of your business? You're looking at numbers. You're looking at all these different things. And the tendency, especially for a type A person, is to see all the things you're not doing versus to stop and appreciate everything that's going well.
Yeah, and that's right. And you know what? I don't care what anybody says. At this point, I mean, numbers are critical. Absolutely. Numbers are absolutely critical, especially if you're in sales. I mean, you have to have the numbers dead to rights. You got to know what you're doing, or else you don't know whether you're progressing. But there's an innate sense that each of us has. We know when the business is doing well. And the business is doing pretty damn well. We're doing good. And you can sense that. And by the way, we're answering the phones every day too. When the phone phone calls start to decrease, that's when we've got, we got to start concerning ourselves. But if I look back at the analysis and the review from the first 6 months of this year, the only thing that I think, yes, you were hypercritical and concerned about the outlay of cash to Google, and what the return is on that. Well, we have to reflect back on what we did here 5 years previous. Nothing. Mm-hmm. Zero. We relied on a website, okay, which anymore you cannot do that. Website is, at one point, the website was critical to the point of 70% of your business, okay? Now it's just as important, but there's 9 other things that you have to do to make that website interactive and make it part of your success story, and that's social media. We're doing so much more now than we ever have before. Yes, Google might be getting a little out of hand because they changed their analytic function, but we're still getting many, many more calls as a result of social media now than we ever have before.
Sure.
So there's the positive. Now, are we spending the right money in the right spots? Obviously, that's the analysis that you and Kim have to go through.
Right.
And I'm happy to help with that. But that to me sounds like something that you're going to get that underfoot. That's going to come around.
Yeah.
That's absolutely going to come around.
It's finding the time, making the time to make that happen.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
like any key initiative
makes a big difference. So, anyway, this
sounds
like this rectal podcast is over. Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. So, folks, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, give us a 5-star Google review. If you would send any comments that you might have, send them through. We'll be happy to see them. We'll respond to them too. But anyway, this is Mike and Mark and Dominic. We're going to sign off. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.